I was talking to a guy last week and he was talking to me about how well his business is going or other aspects in his life. But this one aspect is not going anywhere and seems to be stuck as if it was 10 years ago. And it's about his relationship towards people he loves. It's about love itself. And he said, every time when I'm alone, I'm thinking about something. If I'm ending up alone, or if I will ever find the right person, or anything like that. And he was actually in a relationship for 8 years. And I will not spill any details, of course. But he ended it after 8 years, after multiple times of his ex-girl basically disrespecting him and also betraying him. And he still says to me, I cut her off, but I can't seem to let go of her. I still try to check my messages if she texts me, or every time I go places like to a park, to a cafe or something, I still try to hang on these memories of her and I want to go back, but I know it's not right. I have to let go of it because otherwise I will be stuck in this forever. And I was just listening there. I was sitting and nodding towards him and I'm like, yeah, that makes total sense. It's not something which is random, but you are to some extent, some big extent, stuck in the past. You are holding on to a ghost which is no longer there. And then I of course shared a few stories of me because otherwise how can I help him if I don't know how it feels like? And for me it was some years ago. It was me choosing people who didn't value the way I valued them, but I still wanted to go back to them. There was one incident where I had my first breakup back then and my friend group basically turned their back towards me and I actually had to go through this like horrific experience back then for me all on my own, except maybe one person helping me there. And so I told him this exact story. I'm like, listen, I also chose the wrong people back then because I never had anybody else back then. And that's another reason why we do that. We choose the wrong people because we don't have anybody else. And the next most important thing is that we can't be alone. My girlfriend told me in the beginning when we were dating that there's one thing which is pretty strange in people now. It is that people can't seem to be alone, even if it's just for a limited amount of time. And it's that people always need to somehow be with somebody, even if it's toxic for them. And there are far more incidences I could share, not only this one or with myself, but also what I'm getting from other places. That this common pattern is everywhere. People hanging on to something which is unhealthy for them, or even on something which is no longer there. People who are chasing something for years and years, although it's not there anymore. And the reason is because you fear emptiness more than the actual pain of facing it. The reason why we seem to hang on to things is because the pain of actually dealing with the loss of it is much, much bigger than actually trying to deal with the emptiness which would come if we don't have. The thing is that yes, the pain for some extent might be really high, sure, but this emptiness you're trying to avoid will cause you more pain for an extended amount of time. So I was telling this guy a metaphor which is you have two choices. So basically you burn for a long amount of time and it basically goes on for years, but it doesn't turn off. Or you have the second choice, which is you burn really, really much for a short amount of time. Like it's going to be so much pain, but it's just for a short amount of time, maybe for a few days, a weeks or month, but you will get over it. And this is something which I've also told him with my strategy of dealing with like loss or breakups or something else, that this is actually a go-to strategy which you should do, because otherwise you will not face it. And if you don't face it, it will always creep up in the most sneaky ways into your life. It will show up in the way you respond to messages, hoping it's that one person. It's in the way of you going to places, hoping that I can grasp on the memories which are now coming up, but it's no longer there anymore. So then he, of course, went on telling me that I'm not sure if I can do it. I'm not sure if I'm strong enough to actually let go of this because then I would have to finally accept that's over. And I said, that's the exact point of it. You have to accept that it's finally over. And it's not only about people, it's also about projects or anything which is important to you, but it's no longer there anymore. Maybe because it's fulfilled its purpose. So it is always better to accept what's happening and deal with the grief and pain of the loss instead of trying to gaslight you that everything is okay and maybe there's a slight chance of going back or anywhere. But that's not the case, because then you're trying to chase something which is no longer there. And this is something which I also have done, right? Back then when I was in 2016, I was hoping maybe one day those friends of me will finally message me back and say, hey, is everything fine with you? Are you doing okay? But that message never came. I was just hoping for something which would never be reality, And after many months, even for how I was doing, I accepted that, the thing I wanted will never come. So I just better accept what's happening and move the fuck on. And this is something which just has to happen in every case whatsoever, no matter what you are trying to forget or trying to distract yourself from. It's always better to straight up face it and also stop choosing the wrong people. That's another point. I think choosing the wrong people will always hold back the right ones for you. But because we are basically starving from attention because of social media and other shit, right? And of recognition and even love, if that's something you want, we always hang on people who are not good for us, the ones who are toxic for us. But I mean, it's better than nothing, right? But it's not. It's better to be alone than trying to get some random people into our lives, because it will basically ruin you. It will leave you back questioning, why did I choose the wrong people? But actually, when you reject the wrong people, it's like saying yes to the right ones, making space for the right ones, because otherwise that place in your mind would be occupied by junk, would be occupied by something which is more of a negative energy, right? So it's always better to be okay, or at least trying to learn to be okay, of being alone, even with yourself. So I was talking to this one guy, as I said, and I asked him, do you even have me time? Like, do you even sit at the end of the day and trying to reflect on what you have done today or this week or in general? And he's like, no, I never did that. And then he went on doing it, right? He was basically meditating for 5 minutes straight. And he said to me, it was the most horrible thing he has ever done, because all these voices were telling him all kinds of shit. And I said to him, that's the exact point of doing it. You have to at least somehow find space for yourself and be okay with being alone. And then figure out what you can do, because you know all the answers, you know what you have to do, you know exactly what you have to do, but you're just trying to distract yourself with anything but actually doing it. Maybe it's a really confusing video because I'm covering multiple topics at once, which is, for example, why we always seem to go back to people who are not good for us, and also why we actually choose the wrong people instead of rejecting the wrong people, and also therefore choosing the right ones, and how our emotional patterns, like being starved from affection, attention, love, can lead us to choose the wrong people. But in essence, it's always just about being okay with yourself, being okay with being alone, and only then you are actually set up for attracting the right ones. I've got to know a really good friend of me who is now coming up for some stupid challenges we are about to do, only because I was able to filter out the wrong ones for me, and then I made space for him. And this also applies to my girlfriend as well, like making space for the right people by removing the wrong ones. And sometimes it hurts because it's a part of your past. It's familiar, right? But familiarity doesn't always have to be it's good. Sometimes familiarity also means it's over. It's long due, and you have to just remove it, because otherwise it's just taking space from you. That's about it.